a.m. tomorrow. The players will have a day off tomorrow, so and then we'll advise later in the afternoon tomorrow what the plans are for the next few days. If you have a question for David, please raise your hand and we'll get underway. Any questions out there, folks? Can you hear me? Ben Horn.
Hey, Dave. I guess it started with the World Cup, but do you feel like you've proved a few people wrong who were starting to question you at your age in this team and the way you've come out and batted, particularly in the first two tests, to set the platform?
Oh, look, I think James Anderson sets the benchmark for older guys these days. So, we look up to him getting on in our days. But for me, it's about going out there, as you know, Ben, just to keep performing to the best of my ability and putting runs on the board. And the first two tests, I actually looked like a proper batsman. It's almost like I played my career the other way and had to knuckle down and respect the bowling and the line and the lengths that they're bowling. And obviously the 100 eluded me, but obviously started at the World Cup. Moving on into the Ashes and hopefully for the next 12 months, I feel in good touch. As I said, I was out of runs, not out of form. So hopefully I can put some more numbers on the board leading into obviously this new year.
Are there any kind of big things that you still want to achieve in Test cricket?
Look, I think obviously winning the Ashes here was obviously a big one. You still haven't beaten India in India. That would be nice to do. And obviously England away, we had obviously a drawn series. But hopefully if I manage to get that chance and opportunity, I might think about going back.
Mel Farrell.
Thanks, Paul. Hey, Davey, just how big do you see the difference between Australia and England? Weren't even halfway through the series in terms of days, and Australia have emphatically won this. Is there a vast gulf between the two sides?
Look, I think obviously, you got two very good sides that have been put on the park each test. I think there's been a lot of speculation and talk about the England camps and selections and Joe Root's strategies, but for us, it's about what we can control. We've always, we've had to put our best team on the park as well, but we've had obviously a few injuries. So for us, it's about going out there and doing our best at what we do. The impact off the bench, with Jai and Ness, and obviously Scotty Boland coming out here at the MCG, is showing the depth that we have of our fast bowling, which is fantastic. And credit to the selectors as well for making those brave decisions. It's never easy leaving one of our best bowlers out. Obviously due to injury, but he potentially could come in next game as well, and obviously Bolo might have to exit for that. So these are conversations that are going to come up in the next sort of couple of days. And look, we're in a great position at the moment, but 3-0 up, moving into Sydney, we'll obviously like to tick it off there as well.
Scott Bailey.
So just wondering how you compared this summer to the last two Ashes that you've won in Australia. I know in both the previous two ones, England hasn't won a test match there either, but do you feel like this has been a more dominant series so far?
Look, I think obviously the last one, Stokesy wasn't out here. They've obviously got a great team. I think I was looking at some stats yesterday about obviously their opening pair and Rudy coming in at certain times all the time as well. So, I think obviously we've had that issue sometimes in the past, but it's about them having to start well. And it's like us when we go to England, you have to start well, and if you don't start well in the series, you're up against it. And I think that's where last time we won the first test, it put us in a great position, and the confidence and your chest gets pumped out and you have that belief. So it's really crucial that you start well. And we've done that obviously most times here in Australia. And obviously starting off in Brisbane's always a great place for us to play. We've obviously had a great success there, and obviously being the first test of the summer, it's always a great one to start off. So yeah, I just think it's about starting as well as you can.
And mate, if I could go one more, sorry, just thinking about the way that you guys were able to win in England in 2019 and the amount of planning that went to winning an Ashes overseas, how long do you think it would take for England to be able to turn things around to be competitive again in Australia? Like, is it a full 4-year cycle of planning or 2 years of planning to get to that point?
Yeah, look, I'm not too sure, but I think, when you look at what's being said in the media about pitching the ball up, us in Australia, we obviously pitch the ball up. We know our conditions very well. I think that's the tough part. I think you talk to guys that have played in WA who come from WA and they come over to the eastern side. They even have trouble to pitch the ball up as well. It's one of those things where in England, obviously that back of length still hitting stumps. I think James Anderson showed yesterday his class, which is pretty much his English line and length that he bowled yesterday. That sums up where England can bowl here at the MCG, but if you bowl that length at the Gabba or Adelaide, you're not really hitting the stump. So the way he bowled yesterday was exactly like the lengths that he bowled in England. And I think you have to be brave enough to pitch the ball up here. And we feel as a batting unit, when England do pitch the ball up, we drive them down the ground. But you saw yesterday, Joe Root and a couple of their players hit us down the ground. But you have to do that to create the chances, to create the bat and pad gap, to create those nicks. And you have to be brave to do that as a bowling group. And I think the last 2 times that England's been here, they've been way short of their length. And as I said, if you don't start the series well, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And that's probably the only thing I can think of. And from a batting point of view, I'm not sure. I can't answer that because I think, obviously the bounce is a big one. Obviously growing up here in Australia and playing on these wickets, it's different to how we would approach it compared to England. I would probably suggest maybe going on synthos and practicing the bounce, doing that at England. You've always got to find ways to try and prepare. And I think the only way you're going to get preparation for bounce is on synthos in England. And then obviously trying to adapt here when you come to Australia.
Sam Landsberger.
Oh, Dave, just wondering whether you were surprised or maybe even pleased Stuart Broad has been left out of 2 of the first 3 tests. Obviously, 19 didn't go your way against him, or is he just a different proposition here where, that wouldn't factor in?
Look, I think in 2019, obviously it was in England. So, he was able to get the ball to come back into us and away from us. And it was one of those, for me, it's one of those tours that I didn't really back my game plan and I sort of went too defensive and I didn't attack. So, from me, my perspective, that was my fault. And obviously he bowled really well. Out here, not too sure. They've obviously picked Ollie Robinson for a reason. He's obviously averaging, 21 with the ball. He's had some success in England. He bowls a good line and length. But I think they're obviously going with people that they feel that are going to be better away from home, looking further down the track. From a surprise point of view, I wouldn't say surprised. They've done that before in Australia. They haven't played both of them too often here. You might see him play next game and maybe Jimmy miss it. So, as I said, I can't worry about what they're doing. But from our perspective, I think it's a great result that he's not playing.
A couple more here, guys. Andrew Ramsey.
So can I just sneak in one more call? Sorry. Dave, just want to ask how pleased were you to see Harry in the runs yesterday and sort of how's that chemistry going? And also, how's the rib? Is it still causing you?
Look, obviously awesome to see Harry score some runs. He's a tough, tenacious fella. We gel well together when we're out there. Obviously a minor hiccup last game, but that's what happens in cricket, can happen. But yeah, his courage, to keep fighting and working ways out to score runs when bowlers are bowling these good lines and lengths. He fought it out well, and I'm really, really pleased for him. And as I said, we're gelling well together. But obviously, moving forward, obviously, we'll both like to get to the triple figures, and hopefully we can put on another sort of healthy partnership to start the game off well.
Andrew Ramsey.
Hi, David. Just given that was a sort of new ball wicket and seeing what England went through last night in that final hour, how important was that last hour of the second day or was it the first day? I don't know. When you and Marcus sort of batted through, put the pressure back on them, and is that a sort of real point of difference that you pride yourself on?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rambo. I think it's more about how I play. So I try and sum up the conditions. I think if I go back to Perth against India, when I scored 100 off, I think it was 23 overs ago in the day, and we bowled them out for 180 as a green top. And for me, it's about trying to apply that pressure back. If I sit back and try and defend on those type of wickets, I'm probably going to nick off. And I felt that this wicket was one of those wickets that you couldn't really leave too much on length because there was that variation where where Brisbane and Adelaide, you could leave on that line and length. So for me, it's about how can I score off that length? And for me, it's about obviously opening up the offside. With Woody bowling anything short of a length, I can cut and pull and creating those opportunities for myself to try and go after them. And that's how I tend to go about it. I think, MCG and SCG are quite similar in that sense. SCD doesn't sort of go up and down. It's quite traditional. If anything, it gets lower as the game gets on and slower. So obviously that will be another venue where, I'll probably have to go at the bowlers a little bit more as well. So yeah, that's just something that we had to sum up when we went out there, and it all happened very fast today.
Two more here, guys. Andrew Wu, and then we'll finish off with Alex Malcolm.
Woo burger.
G'day, Dave. Well done. Hey, wanted to ask you about, I suppose, where you see the current team at the moment. You've played for a long time, played some really good teams, some not so good. I mean, where do you sort of rate this, and do you think this is a team that could be take you to number one?
Yeah, look, we've got a very, very balanced team. I think, it's you've got great camaraderie in the team. Everyone's, you can see everyone's smiles on their faces, and I think, last year really hurt losing on home soil. And I think, when we got our full strength team together, we're quite unstoppable. I think you look at our fast bowling unit, it's been a long time, since we haven't really had, new guys come in and bowl as well as they have. But the guys that have come off the bench have had that impact straight away. And you look at Jai and Bolo taking fifers, back-to-back tests. And obviously Ness coming in for his first game and last game as well. We've got great stock, in reserve, and we're just enjoying our cricket. We're playing good cricket. As I said, we're gelling well together. We're putting good partnerships on together as a batting unit as well. We would like some big hundreds from our batting group. But match-winning partnerships are obviously a good one as well. So, looking forward to the next 12 months after the Ashes. We've obviously got 2 subcontinent away tours, which are going to be challenging. Obviously one in Pakistan and then obviously one in Sri Lanka. So those 2 will really show where we are as a team and our character. Obviously, when you go to subcontinent, obviously you potentially could be playing 2 spinners. And then, obviously if selectors look at the batting lineups with who they feel is probably going to be better on those subcontinent wickets and who's not. There's going to be some brave decisions being made. So, look, we're looking forward to that. Obviously, there's a test championship, a new test championship, we're playing for. So, each game has its merit, and, we're just excited.
Thanks, Dave.
Last one here, guys. Alex Malcolm.
Just a quick one, Dave. You've covered off quite a lot of really good insight on batting against the new ball. It has been tough facing the new ball for both sides on all 3 wickets, but you've mentioned there that they've played a little bit differently, each of them. What are the things you're talking to Harry about technically and tactically to adjust to each surface in test match conditions in Australia?
I think it's about, for myself and Harry in particular, we both pretty much had the same game plan. I think if we're looking to score, our defence is very good. And that's when we get into great positions. We don't follow the ball. And I think that, obviously when they come around the wicket and there is plenty of movement, I think you get drawn into that, especially with a bit of extra pace from Woody. You get drawn into that. So you've got to really have your game plan up to scratch with what you want to do. Don't second guess yourself. And I think that's where myself personally, I was in between. I was looking at the scoreboard with the time and whether or not to play a back foot punch or, try and leave it. So I was indecisive. And they're little key moments that can actually be a big hole in the overall game. We could have tried to, we could have maybe buried him if we got to the end of that day's play and come out the next day. But, the hindsight's a great thing. But when he's looking to score and I'm looking to score, I think our defence takes care of itself. And, we'll be in and amongst the runs the next 2 tests.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all of that today. And we'll catch up with everybody in the next few days. And thanks to Dave Water.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Cole.